May brings the biggest shift of 2025 as the Lord of Karma Saturn leaves Pisces and enters Aries. Get ready to let go of magical fantasies and face harsh realities. I am here to break down the month of May and talk about the most important transits for all 12 signs. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer offering readings, creating products, and teaching astrology classes. You can find all of the information on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you want a personal reading, a face-to-face consultation, you can find it on there. If you enjoy my work, please show your support by leaving me a like, a comment, subscribing, and pressing the notification bell. Watch more of my videos. That one simple act of kindness can help my channel grow. You can also say thank you by buying me a tea, a coffee, showing your support that way. I really appreciate that. Before we dive in the end of March, beginning of April, I created 2 limited edition, very small batches of candles. They are Exalted Sun and Exalted Moon. Every year we get 2 days of the Exalted Sun and Exalted Moon at the same time. The Sun is exalted in Aries, the Moon is exalted in Taurus, and so in order for those 2 to match up, only 2 days a year. So this year I worked with it, capturing the powerful Moon in Taurus. This candle is white, it smells like clean cotton, and is decorated with silver foil, which is the metal of the moon. It is perfect for anyone born with their natal moon in Scorpio or Capricorn, if your natal moon is in the 6th house, 8th or 12th. If it conjoins Chiron, Saturn, Uranus, or Pluto. Additionally, highly recommend this for anyone trying to get pregnant. It's a great candle for manifestation. It's a great candle for relaxation. It can improve your relationships with women, improve your sense of comfort, help your sleep. And Exalted Sun is actually all about visibility and courage and confidence. It can boost your leadership skills, help you find success, recognition, rewards for your work. And this is an orange candle. It smells like blood orange, and it's decorated with golden foil, which is the metal of the sun. These have been selling out really well. I still have a few left, so jump on it, check out my website. It's a great time to get yours. Additionally, since this month is sort of big on Saturn, highly recommend checking out my Saturn in Aquarius candle. You might want it with all the changes we are going through. So thank you for listening to my announcements. Let's talk about the month of May. We have quite a few zodiac signs activated this month. Mars spends the whole month in Leo. There's still a lot of action in Aries, specifically with Mercury, Venus, Neptune, and then Saturn entering, which is the biggest shift of the year, or one of the biggest shifts of 2025, and that happens on May 24th. We also have we also have a lot of action in Taurus the entire month, with Uranus being there, the Sun and Mercury. Gemini, the new moon in Gemini offers us opportunities to set forth new intellectual beginnings, come up with new ideas, start new partnerships, explore the beauty and duality of our own nature. There's a full moon in Scorpio, and Pluto goes retrograde in Aquarius. So let's take a look at the month chronologically, highlighting the most important transits. Recommend taking notes because you might find it really helpful for yourself. This is a really good way to prepare and sort of highlight the positive transits coming up. So on May 2nd, Venus conjoins Neptune. This is the repeat of February 1st and March 27th transits. Venus conjunct Neptune is very dreamy, very romantic, very inspired. So you may notice that your relationship feels more soulful. It is a great time to make art, to express yourself creatively, to go on a date, to connect with your partner on that spiritual level. Just empathy and joy in all relationships, inspiration, all of that gets highlighted. On May 4th, Pluto goes retrograde, will be retrograde until October 13th, moving from 3 degrees 49 minutes of Aquarius to 1 degree 22 minutes of Aquarius. So it's especially important for you if you have planets between 1 and 3 degrees of the fixed signs, and those are Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio, right? Because in that case, Pluto would have already aspected your planet once direct. Now it's going to do it retrograde, and then again, it's going to do it direct. In general, when Pluto is direct, we may be facing outer transformations. We may be outwardly working on fighting some kind of power, asserting ourselves, dealing with the shadows, right? There's things happening in the world, in our community, in the government, things that we may feel a certain way about. And so that could be the time where you face challenges outside of yourself. You go demonstrate, you go speak up with your local government representative. Like, there's more ways of outward transformations versus when Pluto is retrograding, it's all about internal transformation. It might be the time when you're realizing that the shifts begin within and you really need to take kind of look at yourself and perhaps change some of your dynamics, let go of bad habits, transform how you think about certain things, release obsessive tendencies and things like that. May 5th is beautiful, 2 days before, 2 days after Mercury sextiles Jupiter. This is optimistic thinking, good news, great time to travel, great time to write, publish. You're getting support of people in power. You are cheerful, and that cheerful energy is bound to attract people your way. So great for taking exams, traveling, negotiating, signing deals. Now that we're finally out of the retrogrades, it's a great time to go ahead with things. Another passionate transit is happening on May 6th, and that is Venus sextiling Pluto. We've had that twice before on February 7th and March 21st, so if you want to look back. But it's a pretty gentle transit, so you may experience a boost in passion, both romantically but also personally. You're working on a project and you just feel so connected to it, so aligned with what you're doing, so inspired, and your intuition is bound to be stronger too. On May 10th, Mercury enters Taurus. We'll stay here until the 25th of the month. Mercury in Taurus is very eloquent in speech. It savors its words. We might focus on expressing ourselves in like a more deliberate way, speaking in a more deliberate way. You may notice more interest in poetry, in music, singing, right? Like writing poems to people you love. It can be, there could be a tendency to be a bit more stubborn in your communication. If you're seeking more fluidity in communication, highly recommend my Mercury in Gemini or even Mercury in Virgo candles, because those can help be like very accurate, precise, but more adaptable, because those are both mutable signs. So with Mercury in Taurus, like I said, it's beautiful for creative writing, for eloquent speech, for being kind of like slow, steady, and productive with the projects you're working on. But it could be a bit challenging in terms of being stubborn, too conservative, or sort of too full of yourself. On May 12th, we get the full moon in Scorpio, at 22 degrees Scorpio, especially important if you have planets between 19 and 25 degrees fixed signs, Scorpio, Taurus, Leo, and Aquarius. It does trine Saturn, and it does occur on the day Mercury squares Pluto. So it's an interesting one. The Mercury square Pluto around the same time, May 12th, a couple of days before, a couple of days after, will likely bring up some secrets. It may reveal some drama, some tension, sort of show some secrets, right? And out of that, the full moon in Taurus will call you to transform. It will call you to release something. Full moon in Scorpio is always the time of emotional intensity. And through facing darkness, through facing the truth, you can actually create more, more stability in your life. Sorry, I'm just adjusting something. I did not think things through. Okay, now we should be good. May 17th, we have Uranus Cazimi. This is a once a year Sun-Uranus conjunction. Could bring up insights, can help you experiment, explore, break away from the old, try something new. It's a great time to actually try something new, let's say you're a content creator and you've always wanted to do a video on AI and you decide to do it. Just watch out for sort of reckless change for the sake of change behaviors. May 18th, Mercury will square Mars in Leo, 2 days before, 2 days after. This can suggest sort of heated conversations, conflicts, even overall sense of like irritability and sensitivity. So be careful. Could be a great transit for like debates or trying to express your thoughts in an organized fashion. Like if you're a lawyer, right? This could be pretty good. But overall, I think with Mars and Leo especially, the ego battles can be pretty strong at this time. So be careful like around May 18th, 2 days before, 2 days after in terms of who you're talking to and what you're saying. May 20th, the Sun sextiles Saturn in Taurus. Give it 3 days before, 3 days after. You may notice that it's easier to tackle items on your to-do list. You may be benefiting from the support of people in power. You may be connecting with elders, showing up as a leader, helping other people. It is a great time also to ask people for support and maybe start long-term projects or ask for a reward for the project you've been working on. The Sun also enters Gemini on May 20th. Will stay there until June 20th, so for about a month. Starting the season of the curious, the open-minded, the chatty, and dual-faced Gemini, right? Which could be a great time for, again, sort of new ideas, writing. Shortly after, on the 25th of May, Mercury will also enter Gemini. So we're going to get the empowered Mercury between May 25th and June 8th with the Sun in Gemini, right? Great time. Communicate, to write, to speak, to connect with other people. The danger, of course, lies in being too indecisive, being too vacillating, right? And maybe like Gemini can see both sides of the story, which sometimes gets misinterpreted as being two-faced. So other people might misunderstand you, so beware of that. I think Gemini is definitely one of the most misunderstood signs. Would you agree? Do you think there is a different sign? I feel like for me it's always between Gemini and Scorpio because I think those two definitely take like the prize when it comes to misunderstood zodiac signs. May 22nd, we have a beautiful transit as Venus and Aries trines Mars in Leo. We've had Venus trine Mars before, most recently on April 6th, but that was between Pisces and Cancer. Now we have Venus and Aries trine Mars in Leo. Very independent Venusian energy and very dramatic, expressive, martial energy. So it's an interesting one because it could be a very passionate time, but also like loud passion before April 6th, right? We've had Mars in like sensitive Cancer with Venus in loving and like spiritual, soulful Pisces, and now it's like grand and big. So you express love in a visible way. Like it could be like the time of like public displays of affection, right? Or dancing out in the open or screaming your feelings into the void or something like that. So it could be quite an exciting time. On the same day, May 22nd, we also have the Sun sextiling Neptune, which can boost your imagination, boost your sensitivity, compassion, help you connect with others, help you write and express your creativity. May 24th, the Sun trines Pluto, boost your intuition. Both are social signs, both are community-oriented signs, so it could be the time you like connect with others and maybe help people, maybe express yourself in a social context somehow. Mercury also conjoins Uranus, stimulating your mind, and the biggest transit of the whole month also happens on May 24th, and that is Saturn entering Aries. So this is big for sure. We've had Neptune in Aries since late March. Neptune tends to idealize the sign. So you could have noticed maybe you've noticed this already, maybe not yet. It's a slow-moving transit, but you could have noticed a certain like restlessness, desire to take action, desire to assert yourself, to become a hero of some sort. There could have been idealism and new dreams. And now that Saturn comes into Aries, it may debunk some of those dreams. It may make you realize that some are just pipe dreams, versus it may also encourage you to buckle down and commit to the dreams that you are truly interested in and those that are truly your own. Like if you have something in your life that no matter what goes on, you always feel like you want, Saturn going into Aries will really encourage you to be the most truly authentically committed to what you want and authentically yourself. The difficulty of Saturn being in Aries could lie in sort of, unhealthy masculinity, taking sort of this my way or the highway, I want things now, being impulsive, being sort of willing to take risks and impatient to a level that is a bit unhealthy. I created 2 years ago in 2023, I captured Saturn in Aquarius, and I still have these candles. They encourage more stability when it comes to taking care of your duties. They represent Saturn co-present with Venus. So there is a harmonious, diplomatic, and structured approach. Highly recommend this for the next 3 years because we're going to have this Saturn in Aries. Also, watch out for your head because Saturn in Aries, we've had Saturn in Pisces for 2.5 years, right? Since March 2023. So many people, Pisces rules feet. So many people have been complaining about feet issues. So now that Saturn goes into Aries, watch out for the head issues, dental issues, bumping your head, I don't know, like random, maybe even skin issues on your head. Again, Saturn in Aquarius could be a really good remedy for that. May 25th, like I mentioned, Mercury enters Gemini. Great time for writing, great time for building a website, playing games, puzzles. It will sextile Saturn immediately, so there's kind of like harmonious way of problem solving. Powerful intellect around May 25th, 26th. It also sextiles Neptune, so not only you get structure of Saturn, you also get the compassion, sensitivity, empathy of Neptune. We get the new moon on May 26th at 6 degrees Gemini, especially important to those born with planets, angles, ascendant, descendant between 3 and 9, mutable signs, Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, and Pisces. The new moon does conjoin Mercury, and it is ruled by Mercury in Gemini. It trines Pluto. So it feels like you are flexible and fluid and intelligent and social. And so there may be new beginnings in your life where you join a club, you start a website, you start a social media page, something that is connected to sort of maximizing your intellect and taking advantage of your intellect. May 27th, Mercury trines Pluto, gives you strong intuition, strong ability to negotiate, to sign deals, to bargain, debate and things like that. And then on May 30th, Mercury conjoins the Sun in the beautiful and magical Mercury Cazimi. So this could be a lovely time for intellectual projects again. It's a pretty good month for intellectual projects. Mercury Cazimi offers more clarity. It's Mercury in rulership, conjoining the Sun, extra strong. So if you need to have an important conversation, if you need to ask a person for something, May 30th is the day to do it. So let's take a look at the 12 zodiac signs. We'll break down the most important transits for them. If you want a personal touch, you want me to look at your month and give you a forecast for your month of May, you can pick up a horoscope subscription on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. On there, you can also see the variety of readings I offer and the astrology course that begins in September. Learn the language of the stars. You are a star, so you want to learn to speak your own language, Take advantage of your chart. Make your life be more attuned to who you are and be more self-aware as well. All of that is at anastasiadoesastrology.com. The beautiful Aries rising. Over the course of the last few months, you've been asking a lot of questions about your identity, your goals, your style, even potentially your living situation, with Mars being in Cancer and Mercury and Venus retrograding between your 12th and 1st houses. In May, your focus becomes more clear and your actions become more organized. So first of all, we have Mars, your chart ruler, the entire month in Leo. Leo is your 5th house of romance, pleasure, parenthood, and children. So for some of you, a lot of your attention might be going towards starting a family. So you're maybe taking care of your health, exercising, directing your attention towards becoming a parent. There could also be a lot of action involving your children that also requires your attention. Overall, I think in May, the strong theme is connected to your sense of pleasure. And what is pleasure to you? What is it that makes you happy, right? Life is full of things we have to do, but most of the time we do those things so that we can relax and do things that we actually want to do, right? Like, it's okay to work, it's okay to grind, it's okay. I mean, it's awesome if you're doing work that is your passion, right? Some of us are quite sort of lucky to do that. But even if you do work that is your passion, there's always things that are difficult. So I think with Mars in Leo all month, it's the question you're asking. You're like very driven to follow your dreams, to be with people you love, to express the side of you that is playful, that is childlike, that is creative. And as Mars is directing you, being in the 5th house, there's still a lot of action in your 1st house of identity. Until May 10th, Mercury is here. You're speaking a lot, you're speaking faster, you're speaking about yourself. Venus is here all month, so you get an extra dose of beauty and charm. Neptune, and then Saturn enters Aries. So this is the biggest transit all month, arguably the biggest transit all year, because for you, for sure, actually, together with Neptune coming into your 1st house. So Neptune came here in late March, and you may have noticed there being a sense of longing for something big, a longing for a new role, an opportunity to lead, to inspire, to be a hero, to show up in the world as a source of light for others. Now that Saturn comes here, it is going to teach you the lessons of commitment. It's going to look at your dreams and throw out pipe dreams and encourage you to commit to things that are truly, truly important. This year, Saturn is only in Aries between May 24th, September 1st. So this is like a taste test, a preview, if you wish. But later, next year, it's going to come in and stay for 2 years. So pay close attention. Your time will become very limited. There may be a sense of so many things going on. You have children that need your attention. You have a job that needs your attention. You're getting married. You're planning the wedding. It's likely going to be really hard. So you want to make sure you're not forgetting to take care of yourself, because taking care of your health will be really, really important. I highly recommend for the next 2 years to get this Saturn in Aquarius candle, because Saturn will be in your 1st house. It will be putting pressures and pressure testing your body, your health, your time. You can handle it. You're an Aries, right? You're an Aries rising or sun. You're strong, but this is Saturn in the sign of rulership, co-present with Venus. It is this black candle. And it could be really great for like harnessing this energy and not stressing yourself out and still being like steady. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast type of energy. So highly recommend, but do make sure now that your health is all good. Watch out for sort of head injuries, because that's what Saturn, Aries rules the head. So sometimes Saturn and Aries may create like tensions when it comes to your headaches and things like that. The entire month, there's also a lot of focus on your priorities and values and finances with the Sun, Mercury, and Uranus in Taurus. You're maybe paying off debts, setting money aside, moving money around, asking for a raise, just trying to figure out how to make ends meet. And then we also have the full moon in Scorpio on May 12th, which is your 8th house of other people's resources. So you're very much this month trying to balance what's coming and what's going out, right? What you're working on and who you're paying. So it's a pretty good month, I think, to clear your debts, both karmically and financially, to have some difficult conversations about money and priorities, and to even maybe ask for more, ask for a raise, because you're about to go into this like major period of hard work. And if you're interested, if you want to think back on like 97, 98, if you are old enough, what was happening in your life the last time Saturn was in Aries, because that would have been this energy, right? You can even look at like late 96. There is a lot of action in Gemini. The Sun enters Gemini on May 20th, Mercury does on May 25th, Jupiter is here until June 9th. So later in the month, right, the focus begins to shift to your 3rd house. There's going to be a new moon here. You may be writing, you may be studying. It may be like a really busy month, especially, like I said, like maybe later on, the last 10 days or so. You're focusing on passing exams and improving your skills, and you're maybe traveling more, going on short trips, seeing your friends. It's likely to be this, again, sort of similar busy energy. So make sure you're grounding yourself and you're meditating and you're doing rituals that are centering, so you're not just like spreading yourself in all the directions. Another big transit that happens this month, starting on May 4th, it will last until October 13th, that is Pluto going retrograde in Aquarius, your 11th house, which could suggest that you're sort of entering the time of reflection on power and control, and also desires and subconscious forces that motivate you when it comes to friendships, when it comes to your dreams, the fears you have that are maybe holding you back, the relationship tendencies you have that aren't healthy for you, anything where you sort of sabotage and maybe make poor choices. All of that will be attended to and reviewed. If you're seeking more, visit anastasiadoesastrology.com, pick up the Saturn in Aquarius candle, highly recommend, and get yourself a horoscope subscription or a reading. Or join my class. It's going to be so much fun. I want to teach astrology that is applied to your everyday life. So it's not just, oh, my moon is in Gemini, I don't know what that means. So it's actually something you can work with. So visit anastasiadoesastrology.com for all the things I'm offering. My beautiful Taurus rising. So in April, a lot of things were going on. Your chart ruler, Venus, began the month retrograde. She was moving from your 12th house into the 11th house. So you maybe asked a lot of questions about your mental health. You maybe retreated back a little bit, felt somewhat uninspired. You maybe needed to re-examine what motivates you, what excites you, what inspires you. In May, this energy continues. There's definitely a lot of focus on your private sector all month. We have Mercury in your 12th house until May 10th. You're maybe pondering some deep questions. You may be considering healing and working with a therapist. You may be working on a project in the privacy of your own home or your own office, something that is like your own. And it could involve your community, it could involve healing, it could involve spiritual, imaginative, creative type of work. The biggest transit, let's just dive for it this month, is Saturn entering Aries, which is your 12th house, which is really big. So this year, It enters on May 24th, stays until September 1st, giving us a preview of the next 2.5 years, because in 2026, it will come in and stay for 2 full years. Saturn in the 12th house is a sign of endings, is a sign of chapters closing. You are letting something go. It's the last house, right? There may be a cycle of unhealthy behavior you're transmuting. There may be bad habits you're becoming more aware of. In the 12th house, we're talking about things like gambling, drinking, eating too much sugar, being self-defeating, self-sabotaging, right? Racking up debt. So all of those things will need to be addressed. So pay attention to what happens between May 24th, September 1st. Saturn is in its fall in Aries, so there is a danger of like being too restless and taking unnecessary risks and sort of sabotaging yourself. So I would highly recommend my Saturn in Aquarius candle. This one was created 2 years ago when Saturn was still in Aquarius. It is co-present with Venus. It is Saturn in the sign of rulership, and it also falls in your house of career. So it can help you take care of duties, tackle responsibilities, express your authority, and do that in the slow and steady way that you, Taurus, are known for. Check out my website for that. So yeah, beware, be sort of careful when it comes to be giving too much of yourself, because Saturn might also reveal that tendency to like self-sacrifice and to people please, right, for the sake of people pleasing. Mars is in Leo all month, so you are busy looking for a home, remodeling a home, maybe hosting more get-togethers at home, hosting more people, having more people over. Mars also rules your 7th house of relationships, so there may be just like more action happening in your family or in your partner's family that you have to go to, like more parties you have to attend or more birthdays that are happening in the family. The Sun is in your 1st house until May 20th. Mercury is here from May 10th until May 25th, and of course Uranus is still here. So you have, while there is that private healing, closing chapters energy going on, you do have energy, you do likely have opportunities to be visible. And from approximately May 10th, the ideas that's been germinating and circumventing and kind of ruminating in your head will start to get expression. So I can also see this as like a big month in which you speak in public and you start new projects and you have like energy to take care of your health, to maybe make doctor's appointments. It is also quite a big month for your relationships, especially as we get the full moon in Scorpio on May 12th, your 7th house. It completes the chapter started about 6 months ago, so look back at November 2024, and offers you a chance to let something go. It happens on the day of the Mercury-Pluto square, so Mercury being in your 1st house and Pluto being in the 10th. It can reveal some secrets, some shadows, some darkness, and will offer you a chance to either let a relationship, a business partnership, a connection, a contract, it may encourage you to let that go because it no longer fits your view of the world. Or it can encourage you to commit to a relationship, to move it to the next level and to embrace that things are not perfect, but you can still work with them because you are strong. From May 20th, the focus shifts to your 2nd house of money and values with the Sun entering Gemini. Mercury also enters Gemini between May 25th and June 8th. Really lovely period to write, to sell things, to negotiate better pay. We get the new moon here on May 26th, so very sort of lovely for maybe even committing to the financial projects you've been working on over the last year. If you've had some ideas that you haven't fully explored and went for, this new moon could be the time. Like, you know, you wanted to start a website, start that website. You wanted to sell some of your brand clothes, sell the clothes. Pluto goes retrograde in Aquarius on May 4th. will be retrograde until October 13th, and this is bringing a need to review your professional desires. If you have dealt with any friction at work that came from other people, which is when Pluto is direct, there may be very visible obstacles. When Pluto goes retrograde, you are encouraged to look within and to examine how maybe you affect things. Where are you being too obsessive? Where are you being too fearful? Where do you want power and recognition, but you're not letting yourself express it? Where are you being too sort of complacent or too, stuck or too passive aggressive? So maybe the next few months will be really good for like examining your motivations. Again, highly recommend Saturn and Aquarius candle. This can help professionally. This can help you reach your goals and kind of gain more visibility and success. Find it at anastasia.astrology.com. On there, you can also book a personal reading and register for my natal astrology course. It begins in September, and it can help you become the better version of yourself. You are the star. Learn the language of the stars. My beautiful Gemini rising. So in April, we've had a couple of retrogrades. So you maybe questioned a lot of things, especially when it comes to your career. Even the last few months, right? Like with Venus and Mercury both retrograding from your 10th house of Pisces into your, from your 11th house of Aries into the 10th house of Pisces. There could have been questions about your dreams, about your friendships, your networks, and that continues. I think if you have asked important questions, right? If you have wondered what your purpose is, in May, you're starting to feel more forward momentum. So we have Mars in Leo all month. This is your third house. This is the house of communication, business, writing, scheduling, short trips. You are on fire on many levels. You have ideas, you have energy, you have courage, you're hustling, networking, traveling, writing, speaking. It's almost like, you're in the zone. You're a Gemini, you're Mercury ruled, Mercury is finally direct. Mars rules this Mercury this month. It's in the third house. You have the motivation, you have the drive, you're expressing your energy courageously and directly. There may be also new projects involving your siblings, maybe new involvement with your community, friendships, right? More brunches, more dinners, more get-togethers. Mercury, Venus, Neptune are all in your 11th house, and Saturn comes into your 11th house. This is the biggest transit of the entire month, arguably a year, 2025. Saturn enters Aries on May 24th. It will stay here until September 1st, giving us a preview of what the next 2.5 years will be about, because in 2026 it will enter Aries for 2 years. So this year, pay attention. It enters your 11th house. And Saturnian energy is like twofold, right? The more negative manifestation of Saturn can suggest a sense of isolation. For some reason, maybe you're moving. Maybe you are starting a new job. There is a sense that you're not as in touch with people. Like you used to work with so many people or used to have so many friends around you. Saturn entering your 11th house may suggest a sense of like isolation. It will also potentially test your friendships to see which friendships are long-lasting and truthful and are worth keeping. Oftentimes Saturn in the 11th can reveal imbalances in friendships. However, on the positive, it can encourage you to take a stand. It can encourage you to find a sense of inspiration, responsibility, commitment to your community, right? And I would urge you that you actually volunteer or you do work that serves other people somehow. Donate some money. If you can donate money, spend some time helping people, right? Because you always want to be proactive. And I also highly recommend my Saturn in Aquarius candle. Saturn is in its fall in Aries, meaning it can be a little bit reckless, a little bit too impatient, a little bit too stubborn or ego-driven, self-driven, like Aries might be. This candle was created in 2023. It captures Saturn in the sign of rulership, and it can help you steady yourself. It can help you achieve things with determination and patience and will, and sort of be very Saturnian. You don't always want to be martial and reckless when it comes to taking care of your duties. It can also bring rewards, recognition, and mastery. So you'll need this, because Saturn will be in Aries for the next 3 years. That's why I made it, because I was like, Saturn will not come back into Aquarius for 29 years. Let me capture it so then we can use it when the energy is more rough. So highly recommend that, as well as recommend that you volunteer and do work that serves others. The sun is in Taurus, your 12th house, until May 20th. Mercury is here most of the month, or at least 15 days, from May 10th until May 25th, and Uranus is here too. So on some level, you may be feeling a bit more introspective. You're busy, right? But there's a part of you that wants to get away, that wants to balance the busyness with quiet time. And it's actually a good point this month, right? You want to make sure you're not just go, go, go all month, because then you'll just burn yourself out and end up feeling isolated. So there is an invitation here to rest, to retreat, to recharge, to spend time in nature, to go see the water, to touch the tree, to walk barefoot. All of that can be highly inspirational. The full moon in Scorpio on May 12th may bring a sense of completion and resolution to your professional life. Take a look back at November, when we had a new moon in Scorpio. What kind of projects got started at work? What was happening with your health? What was happening with your colleagues? The full moon in Scorpio could be like a turning point. You get over a health issue. You get over a difficult conflict at your job. You come closer with your colleagues, maybe. You start to understand them better. But it still feels like a need for that balance, right? A need for balance, because we have so many fixed signs this month, and it's activating your third house. Like, you're busy and you seek rest, and there's a lot going on at work, and there's also some matters involving education, maybe other people, teachers, mentors. So the full moon in Scorpio is this opportunity to let something die and maybe let something go, in order to have a better balance in your life. The sun enters Gemini, your first house, on May 20th. We'll be there for a month. Mercury enters Gemini on May 25th. We'll be there until June 8th. You are talkative. You are finally more excited to be visible. You're maybe like speaking more, maybe filming more videos, shining on social media, shining in your friendships. There is a new moon in your sign on May 26th at 6 degrees Gemini. So if your ascendant is between 3 and 9 degrees, especially potent new moon for you. I really like this. I think it's exciting. There is that sense of new beginnings. Jupiter is about to leave your first house and go into your second house of money. So maybe there is like a new passion you're pursuing, a new investment you're considering, a new project, a new way you want to define yourself, maybe even like a new habit or a new exercise routine. I do like it for that. Another important transit that happens this month is Pluto goes retrograde in your 9th house, encouraging you to go within and address any fears you have, any issues of faith, primarily perhaps where you doubting yourself and not believing in yourself. There may be some legal matters that slow down and require another look. Foreign people, foreign connections, teachers, education matters that you need to examine. Even maybe rewriting something could be possible here. Check out my website, pick up the Saturn in Aquarius candle. These are limited amounts, so highly recommend you get them for the next 3 years. They can be useful. All of that is at anastasiadoesastrology.com. On there, you can also pick up a horoscope subscription to get private horoscopes every month, book your own reading, or register for my astrology course to become more attuned with who you were meant to be. So moving on to Cancer rising. Cancer rising. So in April, there was still a lot of focus on your identity. Maybe you dealt with some frustrations. Mercury and Venus were retrograding from your 10th into the 9th houses. So questions around career, questions around dreams, questions around your purpose could have all been activated. And later in the month, potentially, maybe you've experienced some answers. So in May, Mars, the planet of action, is in Leo all month. This is your second house. It suggests that you are proactive about making money. In fact, your main goal this month might be finding independence, creating wealth, creating abundance, and kind of following your ambitions. You're taking action. You're prioritizing, right? Second house is the house of values as well. You're prioritizing independence. You're prioritizing creativity. You're prioritizing self-expression. This Mars rules Aries, and Aries is a busy, busy sector all month, and that is your house of career. So after you've taken a lot of time to think about what is it that you want to do, maybe you choose to just date. Maybe you choose to not work. Maybe you choose to move, right? Like, it doesn't have to be just about work, but 10th house is classically the house of like public life, your reputation, what you're known for. So you've been asking those questions. You've been sort of wondering, what is it that you want to be known for? What is it that you want to do? And this month is really, really big for that. We have Saturn entering Aries, your 10th house of career. This year, only from May 24th until September 1st, but then next year for 2 whole years. Saturn transits are big, they're slow, and they're very transformative. And so Saturn goes into your house of public life. It will bring restrictions. I'm not going to sugarcoat Saturn and make him feel like just like walk in the park. It may suggest that you're feeling like your work is no longer fulfilling, you're feeling stuck, you're feeling unhappy, you're feeling like your bosses are restricting you, you're feeling like you were promised a raise, but you're not getting a raise. And so initially, Saturn can feel really, really frustrating. I highly recommend my Saturn in Aquarius candle because it captures Saturn in the sign of rulership versus Saturn will be in Aries, which is the sign of its fall. So it's a weaker Saturn. It's a more reckless, restless, impatient, taking on too much type of Saturn versus Saturn in Aquarius. This is the candle from 2023. Is a lot more grounded, more steady. This can be really good for recognition, mastery, overcoming any difficulty. Check out my website for that. But yeah, initially there might be a sense of like dissatisfaction and also a sense that other people are not validating you enough, and you may kind of lean on other people to validate you. But of course, that's not what Saturn is about. Saturn wants you to learn to validate yourself. So whatever dissatisfaction is arising, this is your insight, this is your motive, this is your driving force. You will be encouraged to patiently persevere, commit to your true dreams, work on them, right? Anything worth having is worth putting effort into. So this is going to be a really, really big transit for you with important new beginnings. The good news is we also have some positive transits coming up, specifically Jupiter, which is about to enter your sign in June, but may feel a bit heavy, especially later on when Saturn comes into Aries. The Sun is in Taurus, and so is Mercury, your 11th house. So this could also be a busy month socially. You're seeing friends, you're going out, it's springtime. You may be hearing more gossip, more people are coming to tell you their stories. I mean, as a Cancer rising, let's be honest, you have this warm energy to you that makes other people open up to you pretty easily. So I'm sure that happens already quite normally, quite regularly. But this month can definitely highlight your social side and maybe even encourage you to dream big, right? To think of big dreams. So it's like a big year, and not big year, a big month for that. And look around you. Look around you at people you surround yourself with to see maybe who can be an ally, who can be a mentor, who can help you reach the goals that you have. The full moon in Scorpio on May 12th highlights your sector of romance, pleasure, parenthood, and creativity, self-expression. And there may be a creative project that you're completing. Sorry, I'm running out of air. A creative project you're completing, something's changing in the life of your child. Maybe they're switching schools, or they're graduating from kindergarten and starting like primary school. I haven't gone to school here, so forgive me if I'm messing it up. But something transforming, something maybe also is changing in your love life and your sense of what pleasure is, right? This could be the time when you're kind of like letting something go. You're opening space for new beginnings. And the full moon in Scorpio may also encourage you to let go of a bad habit. So if you've been second guessing yourself, or you've been sort of waiting at the sidelines and doubting yourself, the full moon in Scorpio might also be very much about that. If you have a dream, go get it, right? Because it's very unlikely that someone's gonna hand it to you on a platter. When does that ever happen? Sometimes it does, but most of the times it does not. And if you want some manifestation help, I have created Moon in Taurus, Exalted Moon candles in late March, and this one is really good for manifestation, soothing, calming, resting, because like I said, there's going to be a lot of like heavy work energy, so you want to balance it. On May 20th, the sun enters Gemini, your 12th house, to stay there for a month. Mercury will be in Gemini from May 25th until June 8th. You are retreating. Sort of later in the month, you're like stepping away from the busy social scene, and you're either going within. There's a new moon here on May 26th to heal. This could be like a great time to talk to a therapist, to read some books, recharge, right? Or you are traveling. This could be like a really lovely period to get away, to go to a faraway place, to connect with faraway people. It could be a very inspired time as well. Mercury in Gemini is a very powerful placement, and it's there for about 2 weeks, right? From May 25th until June 8th. So writing in solitude, exploring projects, working on something in solitude, all of that is great. The final transit I'd like to highlight is Pluto retrograde, which begins on May 4th, lasts until October 13th, and it's happening in your 8th house. And so this is all about facing the darkness. 8th house is the house of death and rebirth. So when Pluto is retrograde, it makes you look within instead of without, instead of like blaming other people or looking at other people and perceiving the world as your enemy, which I'm not saying that's what you do, but like looking at the world and sort of pointing finger at other people. Instead, you kind of go within and you think of like, what do I need to heal? What do I need to transform? What debts do I need to pay? What kind of fears do I need to release? So it could be a very powerful time for you. Visit anastasiadoesastrology.com and book your personal reading. We can talk about Saturn entering Aries and anything else your heart desires. At my website, you can also register to study astrology with me. If you enjoy my delivery, join my course. My goal is to make it the most applicable course ever, so you don't just know that you're a Cancer rising, but you know what it means, you know how to work with it, you know how to make it better and make it your strength instead of just something you know about yourself. So join us. For my beautiful Leo rising, May brings a lot of personal development. So in April you maybe felt a little bit introspective, maybe dealt with some inner demons, right? There was a lot of private house activations, sort of dark house activations with Mars in Cancer, Venus and Mercury retrograding from your 9th into 8th houses. So you may have faced some sort of like inner questions, inner demons, right? So May offers you a chance to be more straightforward, more direct, more assertive with Mars in your sign the entire month. This is your time to shine. You're more energetic. So if you've been waiting to start running, to start exercising, to even start a business or start some kind of personal project, this is your invitation to do it. There continues to be a lot of attention on your 9th house with Mercury and Venus and Neptune here all month. You are getting excited for an adventure. You're restlessly awaiting some kind of adventure. There may be dreams involving education, travel, writing, publishing, speaking, life coaching. The biggest transit of the whole month, arguably the entire year, is Saturn entering Aries on May 24th. This year only stays until September 1st, but then next year it comes in for 2 full years. Last time we've had Saturn in Aries would have been in 97, 98. So if you want to look back, reflect on that, even 96. Saturn shifts are a big deal, right? Saturn is very slow. It takes 2.5 years to be in a sign. It tends to transform the structures of our life. So now it goes into your 9th house. And it may suggest that you are experiencing, on the negative, some sort of sense of like disillusionment, lack of purpose, uncertainty. There may be a disillusionment in teachers, in education, if you work in education. There may be, on the positive with Saturn, there may be a sense of commitment to education, to learning, to traveling. Saturn in the 9th could represent taking a long course, like a 2.5-year long course that you're committing to. It can represent doing work that maybe requires you to teach others or requires you to guide others. However, Saturn can bring some kind of delays, some kind of harsh realizations. If you are waiting on like a legal document, you'll potentially get it, but maybe it will take you extra effort, right? Let's say you're applying for a green card and suddenly you hear that there are delays, so you have to deal with Saturnian topics. Saturn is in its fall in Aries, so it errs on the side of recklessness, impulsivity, sometimes taking on too much, trying to do things too fast. That's why I highly recommend my Saturn in Aquarius candle. This one was created in 2023 and captures Saturn in the sign of rulership. Steady, productive, structured, determined Aquarius. So this could be the candle to counteract this more difficult period. It's going to last for 2.5 years, right? So if you ever were thinking of getting a candle from me, this is for sure the candle to get because it's a stronger Saturn. There's a lot of focus on your house of career with the Sun and Mercury and Uranus in Taurus. So Sun is here until May 20th. You're maybe being more visible. You're maybe, kind of speaking more, delivering some presentations, shining, asking for more responsibilities, asking for more money. It's actually a pretty good month for that. You may need to address matters in the home around May 12th as we get the full moon in Scorpio. This one completes the cycle started in November 2024. So reflect back. Maybe you got a new roommate. Maybe you found a new home. Maybe you put your house for sale. And now that roommate moves out. You feel at home with your new property or your house finally sells, right? There may be some kind of important developments. This is also a deeply personal full moon because this is your 4th house. And Scorpio is always very personal, right? Scorpio makes us look at shadows, look at darkness, understand that the light has its power when we first address the darkness. So healing, facing maybe childhood wounds, overcoming difficulties, all of that are great topics that this full moon can actually represent. From May 20th, the Sun enters Gemini. Mercury enters Gemini on May 25th for a couple of weeks. And then there's a new moon in Gemini on May 26th. This is all of it is your 11th house. It's the house of dreams. It's the house of friendships. It's the house of social media. And I actually quite like that because we just had Saturn enter Aries, your ninth house, and now we have now we have all of these Gemini activations. So with the sun and new moon in Gemini, you are exploring new dreams. You are exploring new friendships, new connections, maybe wondering what role you can play in the community. How can you be more involved? How can you make the world a better place? Your dreams may involve social media. They may involve networking, volunteering, starting a nonprofit or working for a nonprofit. And so again, it sort of looks at like, what education do you need to get? What documents do you need to get? Where do you need to travel to? So there are a lot of important questions that are coming up with this transit, but do not limit yourself. Just know that your dreams may require some work. Pluto goes retrograde in Aquarius on May 4th. Will be retrograde until October 13th. And this represents some kind of adjustment that needs to happen in your relationship or in terms of your attitude towards relationships. When Pluto is direct, we may be dealing with some very tangible obstacles, very tangible problems, like our partner loses their job and we need to figure out what to do, right? Maybe they move in with us, maybe we help them find work, whatever it might be. When it's retrograding, when Pluto is retrograding, you are starting to look at yourself. You're starting to examine your motivations, your inner desires, and maybe how those reflect what's happening in your love life. Perhaps you've never processed the loss of your first boyfriend who passed away. And so you do not let people get close to you. So it could be a really kind of powerful time for reflection, for therapy, for journaling and healing and kind of overcoming the hardships of the past and getting closer, I guess, to yourself, but also to your partner. And this could also represent maybe some kind of, a need to examine yourself through the lens of your relationship, potentially. If you're seeking more guidance, visit anastasiadoesastrology.com. I highly recommend my Exalted Sun and Saturn in Aquarius candle. Exalted Sun is the candle that captures powerful Sun in Aries. It has Leo on the ascendant, so it's perfect for taking action, being more visible, gaining recognition and support. I really love this candle for that. And look how pretty it is. It's orange and it's got gold in it. Anyways, find it at anastasiadoesastrology.com. You can also book a reading on there and sign up for a natal astrology course so that you can understand yourself better and shine your light in the way that draws the right eyes to you and helps you reach success. If you are a beautiful Virgo rising, in April, early in the month, you dealt with Mercury retrograde. There could have been some adjustments in relationships you needed to address with Mercury retrograding between your 8th house of shared finances, debts, loans, taxes, and Pisces, your house of relationships. So a lot of, I guess, focus on agreements with other people, potentially some renegotiation, maybe even some exes that were coming into your life. Now, finally, that is over. In May, there's a lot more clarity and forward momentum and kind of quite a few important developments that we are expecting. The weather is promising those. So Mars will be in Leo, your 12th house, all month. This could represent that you are working on something in solitude. You're actually quite enjoying working on something alone. Maybe you're developing a plan for your new yoga course, or you are writing a book, or you are exploring a new exercise routine. Mars in the 12th house could be really good for sort of taking independent action and not needing anyone else to encourage you potentially because you just have the energy already. On the negative, it could suggest sleep issues and maybe being a little bit too restless and hard on yourself. So be careful. I highly recommend the candle I created last month, and that is Exalted Moon. If you are having sleep issues, this is really good for improving sleep, fertility, and helping with manifestation. Check it out on my website. So yeah, try to exercise, try to do things that balance your mental health if you're feeling too stressed. So there is a lot of action this month in Aries. Like I said, last month and even in March, we've had Venus and Mercury retrograding from your 8th into your 7th houses. Maybe you had to renegotiate. Maybe you had to discuss some uncomfortable things. Maybe you had to talk about money and paying for your wedding or some kind of like joint future, financial and otherwise. And now we have Mercury, Venus, and Neptune in Aries most of the month. And Saturn enters Aries on May 24th until September 1st, giving us a preview of the next 2.5 years of Saturn in Aries. Saturn moves very slowly. The good news is it's leaving your 7th house. So if you've dealt with some relationship tensions, if you've had a relationship end or your partner go through a difficult time, this could be a breath of relief. Even the fact that Saturn was in your 7th house and it was opposing your ascendant. How has the last 2 years been for your relationship? I'd be very, very curious to know. Again, if you're looking for some relationship help, I have Venus candles. Venus and Taurus is great for that. Anyway, so how has Saturn in Pisces affected you? How did it affect you? Now Saturn enters your 8th, which is an interesting time. Saturn in the 8th can have a few possible effects, right? It can make you more aware of death and mortality. It can suggest that there is maybe a family member that has been struggling with their health and they pass away, and so you're having to deal with these more difficult topics. You may be having to deal with more difficult topics in terms of you getting older and the fears you have. 8th house is resources of other people. So whenever Saturn goes here, there's the karma around sharing, around give and take becomes more strong and influential. So for some of you, you're maybe taking on a role of caretaker of someone and maybe it feels really heavy. And so the next 2 years will be all about freeing yourself from it. For others, you maybe find yourself in a position of being cared for. If you, let's say, lose your job or you have a child, your partner has to step up. And so all of these important conversations around that can be highlighted. Saturn is in its fall in Aries, so there is a bit of a danger of kind of making reckless decisions or making, poor financial choices. I know I've mentioned my candles twice already, so bear with me. But Saturn in Aquarius is a really great remediator for the next 3 years of Saturn being in Aries. Highly recommend this out of all of my candles for the next 3 years because this can help you be slower, more determined, more kind of structured when you approach things, and so you don't get yourself in trouble. So until May 20th, the sun is in Taurus, your 9th house. This could be a lovely period to study, to connect with foreign people, to go on trips, to expand your life somehow. It doesn't have to be a major getaway vacation type of thing, but it could be really good for, like I said, maybe picking up a book about religion or studying a foreign language, kind of exploring a little bit. On May 12th, we get a full moon in Scorpio, your 3rd house. So you're maybe completing a project started back in November 2024 with the new moon in Scorpio. Here, it's all about siblings, it's all about neighbors, it's all about communication. So opportunities to have honest conversations. This is actually on the day of the full moon. We also have Mercury squaring Pluto. So the bombs, the news, the insights may be dropped and important realizations may be upon you. So this is your opportunity to transform your communication, to maybe examine your relationship with siblings, to even let go of something on your busy schedule or let go of the way of thinking that is limiting you and holding you back. The sun enters Gemini on May 20th, Mercury does on May 25th, and there is a new moon in Gemini on May 26th. So the last 10 days of the month are very professionally heavy and can actually inspire important new beginnings. A new job, a promotion, a raise, a new exciting opportunity, maybe even something you've been working on for the past couple of years with not the couple of years, but the past year with Jupiter in Gemini. And the last transit that's worth mentioning is Pluto retrograding in Aquarius between May 4th and October 13th. This might suggest a need to examine your habits, let go of some bad habits, clear your schedule. Kind of, if you're noticing that you're struggling with sleep or you're struggling with focus or anything like that, Pluto retrograding in the 6th house of work and health and sort of taking care of yourself, problem solving, could be a really good time to examine that and come up with solutions. If you're seeking more guidance, visit anastasiadoesastrology.com and book your reading, pick up your candle. You can find all of that on there, and register for my natal astrology course. My goal is to make learning astrology very understandable and very applicable to your life, so you can actually look at the chart and know what to do, know how to make your life better. My beautiful, beautiful Libra risings. In April, you may have dealt with some health matters. You maybe had to rethink some of your work. Also felt a little bit stuck, right? We had Venus, your chart ruler, retrograding from your 7th into the 6th houses. Mars was in its fall in your 10th house the first 18 days of the month. So it could have been like a month in which you've dealt with some adjustment. In May, I think you may notice a bit more forward momentum. Venus is in Aries the entire month, your 7th house. So is Mercury, so is Neptune, so is Saturn, which is a really, really big deal. But there is a lot of focus on relationships for you. The relationships might be social relationships because Mars, the ruler of Aries, is in Leo all month. So Mars is directing you towards bigger goals, towards community, towards friendships, and kind of these large aspirations. I think it wants you to make a difference. It wants you to fight for something that is worth fighting for. So romantic developments are likely this month, but I also wonder if you're like building partnerships and connections with people that can actually get you closer to your dreams or get you closer to making an impact. So with Mars being that driving force, your 7th house is active, right? You're negotiating, you're partnering up, you're going on more dates, which is actually quite lovely. Venus here could be nice, but she is in her detriment in Aries, so I would highly recommend my Venusian candle. Venus in Libra could be great, Venus in Taurus, anything like that, because sometimes Venus in Aries can be like too combative, right, and stir some drama for the sake of excitement, but drama is not always great for us. So the really big development happens on May 24th, and that is Saturn entering Aries. This year only until September 1st, next year for 2 years. Last time Saturn was in Aries would have been in 96, 97, first half of 98. So if you remember what was happening in your life back then, do reflect. Let me know in the comments below. But it's Saturn in the house of relationships. So it may affect your partner. It may bring something into their life, some kind of restriction, some kind of difficulty, some kind of obstacle that they're overcoming. Maybe they get fired, or they feel uninspired, or they deal with a health issue. So your relationship will be tested through the partner getting tested. So needing to take responsibility, right? Maybe it's a business relationship. If you're single, or if you're single, this could be about committing to dating. If you're in a relationship, this could be about committing to a marriage, getting married, right? Like sort of Saturn is always about saying no. And there's a positive way of saying no if you're saying yes to a life with someone, a lifetime with someone. But it could be tough on relationships that are struggling. It could definitely reveal everything, and it will force things out into the open. Most likely you already know it, right? Most likely you hear it and you feel like, oh yeah, that's my relationship. But if things are good, I wouldn't worry. If things are good, it might just be the time when you are forced to figure things out. You're forced to sort of deal with some burdens, some challenges, and life is full of those. You cannot avoid them. Saturn is in its fall in Aries, so sometimes the difficulty may lie in sort of recklessness and just cutting things off really fast, or overloading yourself, being too enthusiastic about doing too much. So I highly recommend Saturn in Aquarius. This is the candle from 2023. It captures the powerful Saturn in the sign of rulership. And this is a must-have candle for the next 3 years, because Saturn being in your 7th house of relationships is not going to be the easiest thing, right? It may feel like love is no longer very romantic. It's not always going to be like that, but I do recommend this as a way of remediation. So you're also paying off debts and handling financial matters with the sun in Taurus until May 20th and the full moon in Scorpio on May 12th. Both of those are activating your house of personal finances and your house of shared finances. Could be a great month to renegotiate your internet rate, or to pay off a debt, to make an insurance payment, to start a new bank account, right? The full moon on May 12th especially completes the chapter started in November, and it could offer you a chance to make healthy financial changes, right? It can also be, besides money, this second 8th house dynamic could also be about relating and vulnerability and sharing and letting other people in and sort of expressing your feelings. The full moon in Scorpio on May 12th happens simultaneously with Mercury in Taurus, your 8th house, squaring Pluto in your 5th house. So there is a sense of maybe some kind of difficult conversation and having to weigh your values against the values of the other person. It could be connected to money, it could be connected to sex and pleasure and attraction and love, and kind of, discussing those things is quite important here. You start to feel restless and you start to get excited about studying or teaching or traveling when the sun enters Gemini on May 20th. Mercury follows on the 25th and stays here until June 8th. And we get a new moon in Gemini on May 26th. So it's a great opportunity to study. Come join my astrology course. I am a Libra rising, so you'll study with one of your own, and we'll talk about all the beautiful things that astrology is and discover how to actually use them without just being like, oh, my moon is in the 6th house, whatever it might be, right? Like, learn it. So Gemini 9th house activation is really good for studying. It's really good for planning trips, going on trips, writing. Mercury being in Gemini between May 25th, June 8th is really, really nice for writing, for submitting paperwork, dealing with legal matters, applying for grants, scholarships, anything like that. Really love it. Finally, Pluto is beginning its retrograde on May 4th, will be retrograde until October 13th in your 5th house, which could be an introspective time where you're questioning your desire to be a parent. You're questioning your relationship with your children. You're questioning your fears around parenthood, right? Like maybe your child got sick recently and it like lifted up so many fears and so many anxieties in you. And so you're having to go within, you're having to retreat, you're having to rebalance and ask kind of, what changes do you need to make internally so that your life outwardly is more stable. If you're seeking more guidance, book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com. Like I said, pick up my Venus in Libra or Venus in Taurus candle, my Saturn in Aquarius candle as well, and register to study with me, study astrology, and book a reading. If I haven't said that, I'm sure I have said that. But yes, those are the main ones. If you are a beautiful Scorpio rising, so in April, we've had Venus retrograding, Mercury retrograding from your 6th house of work, health, service, into your 5th house of romance, pleasure, parenthood, children. You maybe question how to bring more joy into your life, how to change your romantic relationship, how to even change your kind of everyday life and make it more flowy. We've had Mars in Cancer and Leo opposing Pluto. So there could have been some friction and tension between your work and home lives, some ideological questions you had to address. In May, the energy is, so that was April. In May, the energy is a lot more straightforward, I'd say, and maybe you have figured some things out, right? Maybe you figured out what's worth committing to, what's worth investing into. You figure out how to deal with being a parent, how to deal with being a partner. And so Mars, your chart ruler, is in Leo all month, your 10th house of career, status, reputation. And you are working hard. So if you have a traditional job, Mars being in your 10th house may suggest that you're leading projects, you're telling people what to do, you are being more assertive, right? If you are an entrepreneur, you have your own business, this could be just like a time of like a lot of hustling, a lot of meetings, a lot of appointments, a lot of maybe moving money around and things like that. If you're not employed, right, this could also just be about being visibly assertive in whatever you do. When you leave the house, right? What do you go out do in the world? If you play chess with people in the park, then maybe you're just being more competitive. If you are on a board of some kind of committee, maybe you're advocating a change of rules. So it could just be like, it could be a lot of things, but your goal is expressing yourself publicly. And all of this is quite aligned with Mercury, Venus, Neptune, and Saturn, especially Saturn being in your sixth house this month. So Mercury allows you to problem solve. Venus helps you get along with your colleagues. Saturn entering Aries on May 24th is a really big deal. This year it only stays until September 1st, but next year it comes in for 2 years. And it gives you a preview of what the next 2 years, even like 3 years, will be about, right? Saturn coming into your 6th house is likely to increase responsibility. If you've already felt busy, get ready to feel even busier. There's more problems to solve. There's more people relying on you. There's more health matters you need to attend to. Health-wise, do take really good care of your health right now. Start making doctor's appointments right now. Start doing any kind of maintenance that you need to do. I always recommend for Saturn being in the 6th house, not only taking care of your health, but also volunteering. 6th house rules pets. It rules people who are sick, elderly, poor. So walking dogs at a local shelter or volunteering at a place that packs lunches for homeless people. That could be a really great way to deal with this energy and be proactive. Another healthy way to work with Saturn is to pick up my Saturn in Aquarius candle. This is Saturn candle I created in 2023 when Saturn was still in the sign of rulership, Aquarius, co-present with Venus. So this is a lot more structured, hardworking, good at sort of separating responsibilities that are important to do now versus the ones that can wait. Check out my website for that, because Saturn in Aries is actually Saturn in its fall. So having Saturn in your 6th house of everyday work in its fall might suggest that you're like enthusiastic about taking responsibilities, but then you take on too much and you end up getting a headache. That's Saturn, in the 6th in Aries could represent headaches, bumping your head, getting like scratches on your head. It can represent also dental, skin issues. So do take care of yourself. But on the positive, like as someone who is finishing Saturn in her 6th house as a Libra rising, it can encourage you to commit to something, right? Like for me, that was taking better care of my health, getting my yoga teacher training, doing yoga more regularly. So what is that for you? It can be very kind of like powerful. Do you have any ideas on what this would be? Please share down below. And if you remember the last time Saturn was in Aries, if you were, an adult back then, that would have been 96, 97, 98. What was your life like back then? Please share. There's a lot of action in your relationships with the Sun in Taurus until May 20th. You're maybe dating more, negotiating, signing contracts, connecting with people. It's a pretty lovely time to be alive, to date, to meet people. The full moon in Scorpio on May 12th allows you an opportunity to draw your attention within and kind of take it away from relationships and all the people you're serving or taking care of or dating. I may have said dating twice, but focus on yourself, right? Take care of your health, take a bath, take yourself out to a spa, speak up about your goals in relation to relationships, figure out what's important to you. The full moon occurs on the same day as Mercury in Taurus squares Pluto in Aquarius, so there's a square between your 7th and 4th houses. There may be some tension in the family, right? Like maybe you are married and your husband is fighting with your parents, or your parents keep telling you what you should do in terms of taking care of your daughter, right? And so the full moon in Scorpio is just kind of a chance to like turn the dial, the volume down, and press the mute button and take care of yourself and, you know, assert yourself and speak up about things that matter to you. From May 20th, the sun enters Gemini. Mercury comes here from May 25th until June 8th, and we get a new moon in Gemini on May 26th. This is your 8th house. This is the house of sharing and relating with other people. It's the house of debts. It's the house of joint resources, inheritance, insurance payments. So this gives you this very sort of like intellectual approach to money, intelligent approach, very clever way. So I like this for figuring out like maybe refinancing your mortgage, maybe renegotiating your rate, your internet contract, maybe starting a joint bank account, or figuring out a different way to spend the money that you've made, because Jupiter has been in your 8th house for a year at this point. And so you may have experienced some gains. And so this new moon here is an opportunity to like redirect resources. But it could also be quite symbolic for like a marriage, right? A literal marriage, or a marriage of finances where you come together with someone else. Pluto goes retrograde on May 4th, and until October 13th, it will be retrograding in your 4th house. When Pluto is direct, we may deal with visible obstacles, visible power struggles. When Pluto is retrograde, you go within and you start to address your sort of inner tension, inner fears. It's a really good time to heal childhood wounds, to examine how your past affects your present, to sort of be more clear, more deliberate, more determined, right? But I like this for therapy. I like this for journaling, writing, and just kind of examining your family dynamics and finding ways to have more power. If you want some peaceful energy in your life when things feel a little bit heavy, the exalted moon falls in your 7th house of relationships. It is perfect for manifestation. It can improve your sleep, help with fertility, and help you manifest more peace and abundance. Find it at anastasiadoesastrology.com. It's a small batch, but I still have a few. And on my website, you can also book a reading and register for Natal Astrology Blueprint of the Soul course, so that you can discover the you were meant to be and learn astrology in a clear and applicable way. My dear Sagittarius risings, April could have brought some adjustments in your home, in your living situation, your family, as well as a need to pay off some debts, handle financial matters, insurance, inheritance matters. There could have been also just some sense of uncertainty and confusion, either in your life or in your partner's life, because your 7th house is ruled by Mercury and Mercury was retrograde. In May, there's a lot more clarity and forward momentum. We have Mars in Leo, your 9th house, all month, and you are driven to get outside of your comfort zone. You are traveling, studying, learning, teaching. You're maybe being very sort of active in a legal sense, whether you are applying for documents and visas, or you're a lawyer and you're just going to a lot more sort of courts and fighting for things. But there is that sense of like desire for something bigger and greater, some sort of like adventurous spirit to you with Mars in Leo. Mars rules your 5th house of romance, pleasure, parenthood, and children. That is busy all month. We have Mercury, Venus, Neptune, and later in the month, Saturn here. So a lot of opportunities. I think now, after you've questioned your relationship and your living situation and maybe even your desire for children, now that you have discovered some clarity, you have exciting new opportunities to bring new hobbies, new passions, new love into your life. Maybe there's a new child in your life and you're adjusting to it. Saturn enters Aries on May 24th to stay until September 1st, and then to give us a preview of the next 3 years, because next year it will come into Aries for 2 years. This is a really big deal. Saturn takes 2.5 years to stay in a sign, so it brings an important energetic shift. It draws attention to your 5th house of pleasure, making you release bad habits. It could be the time when you're kind of becoming clear that, oh, maybe I do eat too much sugary things and my sugar is too high, right? It could also be the time when you are becoming more serious about a creative project. When Saturn was in my 5th house, I was like, it's very much an interesting time because the fun is a little bit harder to access with Saturn in the 5th house, and you have to plan it out and structure it. So for me, I started saying and got distracted, but when Saturn was in my 5th house, I was kind of just building my Instagram following, and I would film a video every time I went on my walk. So I was combining the relaxation with productivity. And so you may be having to be more structured as you're working on your passion project, as you're becoming a parent, as you are helping your child. Maybe you're deciding to homeschool your child, and so responsibilities around children increase. Sexually, it may be a bit of like an interesting one, because initially it may bring like a dry spell and things may slow down. But again, if you are deliberate about it and you structure and like plan the dates, you can figure it out. There might also be questions around like karma around health, around sex that need to be addressed, karma around relationships that need to be addressed. But yeah, like having a child, becoming a parent, all of that is also something that will create an increased responsibility in your life. Last time Saturn was in Aries would have been 96, 97, 98. So take a look back. Maybe you were like really young and you were dancing at the time and you entered competitive dancing and it just became like really increasingly difficult. And so that could be an experience of Saturn, right? Like it's like, what are you committing to? What brings you joy? And then now you have to work on it, because it's funny because 5th house is all about pleasure and fun, but Saturn is not the most just like pleasure and fun planet. I highly recommend for this next 3-year-long period my Saturn in Aquarius candle. Saturn is in its fall in Aries. It's in your 5th house, so it's already going to create a sense of heaviness and responsibility and just like busyness. And this is Saturn that is more structured, that is more deliberate, that is more kind of, it's like better at picking which tasks to do and when to do them, versus Saturn in Aries might just be, I'll do it all now, give it to me. So try to be, sort of, it can help you be more structured. You are working a lot this month with the Sun and Mercury and Uranus in Taurus. There may be new projects. Maybe you're taking care of your health, seeing doctors, improving your diet, decluttering. It's a really good month to sort of organize your cupboards. The full moon in Scorpio on May 12th highlights your house of self-defeating tendencies, offering you a chance to let go of bad habits, to maybe experience some clear communication. It's also the day Mercury squares Pluto, and Pluto is in your 3rd house of communication. So honest conversations, being more self-aware, committing to taking better care of yourself is very much highlighted with both Taurus and Scorpio transits. Your relationship house gets very busy from May 20th when the Sun enters Gemini. Mercury follows between May 25th and June 8th. And there's a new moon here on May 26th. So I think after March, April, and you've done some spring cleaning and you've rediscovered passion and you've sort of committed to a relationship, now is the time for new beginnings, and it could be a sign of you putting yourself out there and starting to date. Or again, like if you recently had a child, a new beginning in your relationship as a parent. Maybe you just got married or you're getting married. So this could be quite an exciting, lovely transit. And yeah, I think, again, right, with that Saturn in the 5th house and a lot of 7th house transits, it's like relationship is now at that stage where it requires some work. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just need to be like willing to put in the work and be patient. Pluto begins its retrograde on May 4th, and until October 13th, it will encourage you to examine how you communicate, examine the thoughts you're thinking, the fears you have, any power struggles in communication and relationships with siblings. Anything that is hidden underneath will become more obvious and visible. Check out anastasiadoesastrology.com to book your reading. Pick up the Saturn and Aquarius candle. You'll need this for the next 3 years, and I only have 10 or 15 of these left, so definitely check it out. And sign up for natal astrology course I'm going to teach in September to discover the you were meant to be and to learn to speak the language of the stars, because you are a star, Sag rising. I know it. If you are a Capricorn rising, in April, you may have dealt with some uncertainty and confusion involving home, family, living situation. Maybe you've made some adjustments, moved, or had to renovate or make some improvements. You could have also been dealing with relationship questions, maybe some sort of friction in relationship, or wondered where things are going. You may have also had to deal with like financial matters. So a lot of kind of concerns were active in April. In May, I quite like May. I think there is more straightforward energy. We're finally out of the retrogrades, right? It was just like nonstop, Mars and then Venus and then Mercury. So in May, there is a lot more forward momentum. Mars, the planet of action, spends the month in the 8th house. 8th house is the place of debts, loans, taxes, healing, sharing, karma. So with Mars here, it's a good time to network. Not quite network, maybe more like negotiate. I'm like, the word starts with an N. To negotiate, to heal, to chase after people who owe you money on some level and like, or pay off any debts. You have sort of more courage to go into uncomfortable situations, which could be great for like a therapist or a healer, because you're maybe exploring new opportunities professionally. But you also have more opportunities to like improve your finances and make some positive adjustments. So I quite like that. And a lot of your attention is again sort of dedicated to your relationships and your agreements with other people. Maybe questions like inheritance, insurance, like dependencies, debts, things like that. This Mars rules Aries, and we have Mercury, Venus, Neptune, and later in the month Saturn, all in Aries, your 4th house of home, family, living situation. So again, I'm sort of thinking if maybe you're like renegotiating your mortgage, or maybe selling your home, or you're hiring people to help you with home improvement projects, because Mercury, Venus, and Neptune in the 4th, the first like 2/3 of the month, are going to encourage you to make positive changes. Neptune will also bless you with compassion and sensitivity. The biggest shift of the month occurs on May 24th when Saturn enters Aries. This year it stays until September 1st. Next year it comes in for 2 months. So this one is a preview of what's to come. Saturn, Neptune has entered your 4th house in late March. It may have brought more forgiveness, more sort of ideals and dreams involving real estate, involving family, some kind of like compassionate energy. But now Saturn comes in and is going to reveal where you're being too forgiving and too accepting. So it might be the time when you're sort of realizing that someone in your home is taking advantage of you. It could increase pressures in the home, like a family member maybe needs you, and so you need to structure your life around it. It may reveal structural issues in your home. It's not all going to be like, sort of, oh my God, negative, but Saturn is not the most it's not the easiest planet, right? It's not the planet that's there to just punish us, but it is the planet that shows what is not quite working right. So with Saturn in your 4th house, you are kind of reworking structures both externally in terms of your family unit, in terms of your home, but also internally to find more self-reliance, to find more peace, to find more inner stability. Saturn is in its fall in Aries, so there might be a danger of overdoing it, taking on too much, trying to help everyone. That's why I highly recommend my Saturn in Aquarius candle. I created it back in 2023 when Saturn was in the sign of rulership. This is perfect for working in a slow, deliberate way, reaching recognition, finding mastery, and being kind of more structured instead of just gung-ho about all the duties that are coming in your life. Your romantic sector is quite busy this month with the Sun in Taurus until May 20th. You're maybe dating more, you're maybe feeling more playful, spending more time with children. The full moon in Scorpio on May 12th highlights your house of friendships, networks, hopes, and dreams. And you're having to balance your love life, your pleasure, your personal desires with those responsibilities and projects that are more connected to others. So the full moon also happens on the same day as Mercury in Taurus squares Pluto in Aquarius, your 2nd house. And there may be some creative disagreements or some financial matters that you need to address, maybe conflicts of values you need to address in your friendships with the full moon on May 12th. It may offer you a chance to address any tensions, any conflicts, any disagreements in friendships, hopefully come closer, right, through being vulnerable and honest. There could be a group project that's completing, whether it's because you're done or because you can't agree with people, that I don't know. A completion of a dream. Take a look back at the new moon in Scorpio early November. What was happening in your life at that time? Because now we're kind of coming full circle. Maybe also just a sense of new dreams, right? Your things that you used to value no longer feel aligned with who you are. On May 20th, for a month, the Sun will enter Gemini. Mercury will also come here between May 25th and June 8th, and we have a new moon in Gemini on May 26th. So this highlights your house of work, health, and service. And it encourages you to start new projects, to look for a new type of work, and to do work that is healing, that is soulful, that is altruistic on many levels, because 6th house is all about pets and sick people, poor people. So there might be new beginnings in terms of you wanting to give back. Maybe you're getting a dog or you're getting a squirrel. I saw a squirrel today. It was I don't know if you can see it, but it was all the way at the end of the branch, and the branch was super, super thin. This thin, and the squirrel was hanging off of it. That was pretty impressive. So if you get a squirrel, make sure you're ready, because those guys are intense. So new beginnings in your health, new beginnings in your professional life, and new beginnings in terms of your role in the community and your passion projects. And then Pluto also goes retrograde between May 4th and October 13th in your 2nd house, and there may be some reevaluation you are required to make, starting with your finances and your spending, but then even deeper than that, your sense of self-worth and how maybe your resources reflect how you think of yourself. If you're constantly running out of money, maybe it's time to examine your relationship with yourself and your fears or your feelings around money. If you're seeking more guidance, visit anastasiadoesastrology.com. Sign up for my natal astrology course. Classes begin in September, and my goal is to make astrology very easy to understand and applicable to your everyday life so it can actually serve you and make your everyday life better. And check out my candles. Saturn in Aquarius. I'm telling you, this is the one. If you are a beautiful Aquarius rising, April could have brought a lot of questions around priorities, around values and finances. You may have wondered how to best use your knowledge, your skills and hobbies to create more stability in your life. There could have been work and relationship matters that you needed to address, and maybe, at least in the beginning of the month, a bit more of like a sense of ambivalence or uncertainty. In May, we have, I think, a lot more forward momentum, a lot more kind of direct movement with all the retrogrades behind us. Mars, the planet of action, is in Leo all month, and that is your house of relationships and partnerships. And you're driven to date, you're driven to sign contracts, you're driven to start partnerships, you're driven to commit. This could be a really big month for putting yourself out there, going on dates, being more active with your partner. On the negative, of course, maybe fighting with them a little bit more, but on the positive, fighting for a mutual ideal. I like it for that. Venus is in Aries all month, so is Mercury until May 10th, and Neptune all month. And then Saturn comes in on May 24th. Will stay until September 1st. Saturn changing signs is a big deal. It happens once every 2.5 years. To give you an example, Saturn has been in Pisces since March 2023. And here we are in May 2025. So we've had 2 years of Saturn in Pisces. And now it's entering Aries. And so it's bringing attention to your house of siblings, community, communication, skills, hobbies, business, and education. And so this year it's only from May 24th until September 1st, but then it's giving us a preview of what the next 2 years will be about. 3 years actually, because in 2026 it comes in for 2 years. Happy Saturn return if you are Saturn and Aries yourself. So here you may find yourself in a position of like Saturn the third creates like heaviness around mental output. You maybe start a new job and you're learning a whole brand new set of skills. Or you're writing a book and it's like a really big book and it requires you to be structured with your schedule, committed, and sort of serious. There may be negative thinking that you're having to face and deal with. There may be tensions with siblings, a sense of like your colleagues not really being supportive. So of course, Saturn will urge you to discover your inner strength, right? Your inner sort of commitment to yourself and your inner power. It is in its fall in Aries, so the danger lies in trying to do too much and being sort of overly excited about responsibilities because you think that if you prove yourself, you maybe get a reward or something. I would urge you that you breathe very deeply before you say yes to like the 10th thing on your list for the day. I also highly recommend my Saturn in Aquarius candle for the next 3 years. This one was created in 2023 with Saturn in Aquarius co-present with Venus in Aquarius. So it's a lot more healthy. It's a healthier Saturn. It's more structured. It's in the sign of rulership, so it knows when to take action, when to slow down, when to handle duties, when to rest. So highly recommend this, especially because you're Aquarius rising, but also for the next 3 years when Saturn is in the sign of its fall. This is very much the choice. Your attention this month may also be quite heavily focused on your home and your living situation with the Sun in Taurus until May 20th. You're maybe spending more time with family, maybe talking more to family members. Mercury is also in Taurus until May 25th, between May 10th and May 25th. And it's, you know, there's a lot of desire to kind of make your home more comfortable, maybe improve your relationships, reconnect with family. And you're also on some level kind of looking back and reflecting on the past, maybe healing old wounds. The full moon in Scorpio on May 12th draws attention to your professional life and marks a turning point there. There is a sense of focus on, like, strong focus on the home and strong focus maybe on your own integrity, as Mercury on the same day as the full moon squares Pluto between your 4th and 1st houses. And so you may be discovering something around that time that changes things, and you decide to switch professional directions, or you decide to maybe get a different team for the project you're working on. The full moon in Scorpio also completes the chapter started last November, so it could offer you a chance to reflect back on that and, like I said, reach some kind of milestone professionally. A raise, a change of title, a change of job. Maybe you're starting a business, maybe you're starting to work from home, right? Full moon is always like something ripens and then it's time for a change. On May 20th, the sun enters Gemini for a month, and then Mercury will be in Gemini between May 25th and June 8th. And there's a new moon here on May 26th. So from the final 10 days of the month are very romantically focused. With the new moon here, you may be getting pregnant. You may be, let's dial it back. You may be getting pregnant, but you also may be just putting yourself out there and dating. 5th house is all about like play and being playful and being childlike and being uninhibited is the right word. I like when that happens, when I want it and it comes instead of being like, what is the right word, you guys? So it's a really beautiful transit. It feels like a very opportune time. It's also very creatively positive transit, especially with Mercury here between May 25th and June 8th. Really lovely for writing, for speaking, for content creation, video making, anything like that. So dating, parenthood, and creativity, really chef's kiss at the end of the month. Pluto goes retrograde between May 4th and October 13th in your 1st house. So this is an interesting one. When Pluto is direct, right, which is up until now, it's been direct this year, you may be dealing with outside obstacles, things outside of your control, other people feeling frustrating, other people restricting you. When Pluto is retrograde, it's the time to deal with internal fears, internal blockages, internal restrictions. So it's kind of a time in which you may be reflecting on power, control, desires, limitations, kind of what is it that you want, what is it you're willing to sacrifice and achieve. If things get a bit complicated this month, highly recommend my Venus and Taurus candle. It falls in your 4th house of home, family, comfort, and security, and can create like more peace in your life. Find it at anastasia.astrology.com and book a reading on there if you're seeking a personal consultation, one-on-one consultation with me. Also register for natal astrology course. It begins in September and it will help you understand yourself to a level that you have never understood yourself before. My goal is to teach astrology in a clear and applicable way. For my beautiful Pisces risings, April may have started with some confusion as Venus and Mercury retrograded from your 2nd house of priorities and values and money into your 1st house of identity. There could have been a sense of maybe like overwhelm, some professional friction with Mars-Pluto opposition, and yeah, like a need to kind of pay off debts and create more clarity financially and internally. In May, there's more forward momentum. I like May quite a lot. We have Mars in Leo all month. It's your 6th house. It's Mars in its joy. Mars really likes being in the 6th house because there's a lot to do. It's the house of health, work, problem solving. So you are up to the challenge. You are driven, you're hardworking, you're energetic and determined. It's a great transit for exercising. It's a great transit for problem solving at work, for taking care of your health, right? Really, really good transit. But a lot of your attention is very much on like taking care of the plumbing, cleaning, decluttering, organizing, taking care of your health this month. With that in mind, we have Mercury, Venus, Neptune, and later in the month, Saturn in Aries. So they're ruled by this Mars, your second house. And so your finances, your money may be going towards those pursuits, like taking care of your health, right? Buying a stationary bike, getting yourself a standing desk, getting surgery that you wanted, right? It could also suggest that there's just like a lot of focus on making money. We do have Venus here, so she can actually bring you some gifts, but Venus is in her detriment in Aries. So watch out for being like maybe a little bit too like combative or competitive when it comes to finances. I have Venus in Taurus candle, which is a much healthier Venus, and it can be helpful for getting along with others and also manifesting love in relationships if that's what you're seeking. Saturn entering Aries on May 24th. Is a preview. This year it stays until September 1st, but next year it comes for 2 years. And Saturn in the second house is, in short, the time for you to learn to rely on yourself for validation. When Saturn comes into your second house, we've had Neptune here, right, since March 30th. And Neptune could have inspired you. It could have brought new ideas, new dreams, new business opportunities, right? And then Saturn comes in and Saturn is like, no, maybe, yes, no. So Saturn will be like very clear, like this is not going to work out. This might work out. This will work out. Let's commit to that. So Saturn here will suggest that in order for you to get this project, this idea off the ground, you have to put in the work. You want to make money through playing the market, you have to learn and research investing. You have to own a home, you have to be ready to say goodbye to your savings, right? So Saturn in the second may create a sense of restriction on your finances. And it's not the transit to fear, I think, because the restriction can come from making a major investment. The restriction can come from just like inner sense of like, I am owed a raise, I am owed a promotion. But the truth is like, if you don't ask for it, if you don't take action, if you don't speak up, who's gonna like be there sitting there being like, yeah, of course, he or she needs this raise or promotion. People do once in a while, you hear those stories, but it's very much up to you. And so there could be a sense of like frustration with other people not recognizing your worth, not paying you accordingly, with just like a sense that money just sort of keeps going away. But again, you are the character. You're the main character. You're the hero of the story. So if you want something, go get it. I know you can, Pisces rising, because your houses of work are all fire. So you're fire. You have that. You have those qualities in you. Saturn is, however, in its fall in Aquarius, so be careful taking unnecessary risks when it comes to money. Be careful taking on too much responsibility, just trying to prove yourself to others. I highly recommend, if anything, I highly recommend my Saturn in Aquarius candle. This is the batch from 2023. It captures Saturn in the sign of rulership, in its home sign. So it's a lot more structured, strategic, hardworking, great for rewards and recognition and mastery, especially for the next 3 years. So until May 20th, the sun is in your third house in Taurus, and Mercury is here between May 10th and May 25th. You're socially busy. Your social life is busy. You are getting more phone calls, you're seeing more people, you're chatting, your phone is just going off, which could be great for like networking and connecting with people and business matters, or asking people for help and advice. I do like this quite a lot. Mercury being in your third house between May 10th and 25th could also be like a very creatively inspired transit, really good for writing. The full moon in Scorpio on May 12th in your ninth house may reveal some ideological disagreements, ideological difficulties with your siblings, with your teachers, with your mentors, can encourage some kind of shift of perspective. It can also bring a completion of a legal matter. If you're a lawyer, right, a legal case you've been working on completes. Or if you've been waiting for a visa, you get that visa. completion of a course of study, a trip that you've been planning for a while. Now you finally go on it. Relocation, potentially, if you've been thinking about moving, especially with the fact that the sun enters Gemini, your 4th house, on May 20th. Mercury enters Gemini between May 25th and June 8th. And we get a new moon here on May 26th. So new beginnings in your living situation. So moving for sure. I can see, as an example, home improvement, home renovation. If we're looking at that Neptune and Saturn in your 2nd house, could you be buying a property? And that's, again, why the finances are a little bit less free-flowing right now. Opportunities to maybe start a new family dynamic, opportunities to start a family, to get pregnant, and all of that is as well on the table. Pluto begins its retrograde on May 4th and will be retrograde until October 13th in your 12th house, which is a very private, very introspective time. It's a great period to go within and ask yourself, like, you know, if you feel like life is unfair to you, this could be the time to reflect on like how your thoughts perhaps create your reality, how you can change some of your beliefs. It could be the time to address your self-defeating tendencies and bad habits. For some people, it's drinking too much. For others, it's allowing their friends affect their mood, or allowing their friends sort of manipulate and guilt trip them, right? So it's a really important kind of period for self-reflection and self-understanding. And if you're seeking more self-understanding, visit anastasiadoesastrology.com and book your personal reading on there. And register for natal astrology course. It begins in September, and it's going to be the best decision you'll make in your life, because astrology is the language we should all speak. And my goal is to make it very comprehensible and very applicable so you can use it in your everyday life and not just speak the words that nobody understands. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being with me. Please share how this month has been. How has April been? If you remember the last time Saturn was in Aries, I didn't really say that with Pisces, but I did mention it with some other signs. That was 96, 97, 98. If you remember, what was your life like? How did Saturn and Aries change your life? But it's an exciting month. The closer we get to June, the better it feels, because Jupiter is closer and closer to Cancer. So definitely worth to get excited. I'll talk to you very soon. Enjoy the month of May. Bye.